The rain fell outside, a constant drumming against the window of Ryan's small apartment. Inside it was quiet, except for the rhythmic patter. The glow of his laptop screen lit his face, illuminating videos of people who had made it big. Young millionaires, successful creators, people living lives he could only dream of. Ryan let out a heavy sigh, whispering to the empty room, "How do they do it? Why isn't that me?" Every night was the same. He'd make a promise to himself. Tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow, I'll start working on my goals. I'll finally step out of my comfort zone. But every morning the alarm would ring, and a familiar voice in his head would say, "Not today. You're too tired. You'll start tomorrow." And just like that, tomorrow never came. He didn't realize that the biggest obstacle wasn't the world outside, but the one he had built within his own mind. One night something shifted. As Ryan lay on his bed, endlessly scrolling through his phone, a soft thud near the door broke the silence. He looked up. An envelope was lying on the floor. He cautiously walked over and picked it up. There was no name, no address, just his own, Ryan, written in stark black ink. Curiosity got the better of him. He opened it. Inside, a small white paper held just 7 words. "You are being killed silently, one by one." A chill ran down his spine. Ryan froze, his heart pounding in his chest. What is this? Is this some kind of twisted joke? He thought. He frantically checked the windows, peered out the door into the rain-soaked street. But it was empty. Just the sound of the rain remained. He sat back down, his eyes fixed on the note. Killed silently. What could that possibly mean? Sleep was impossible that night. The message echoed in his mind, playing tricks on him. Every failure, every missed opportunity, every broken promise to himself came rushing back with a vengeance. He remembered his dream of starting a small business, of being independent, of making his parents proud. But every time he tried to start, something inside would stop him. He'd always tell himself, "I'll do it when I feel ready." But ready was a destination he never seemed to reach. The next morning, for the first time in months, he woke up early. He placed the strange letter on his desk and whispered, "If someone's trying to scare me, well, it's working." He grabbed a notebook and wrote down a question. What is killing my success? His eyes scanned his messy room, the empty coffee cups, the half-written to-do lists, the motivational books collecting dust on the shelf. And then it hit him like a lightning bolt. He was living inside a comfort zone. It felt safe, like a warm blanket, but it was actually a prison. Comfort had become his invisible wall. Every time he avoided a risk, every time he chose rest over effort, every time he delayed taking action, that wall grew a little bit taller, and behind it, his dreams were quietly suffocating. Later that day, Ryan met up with his old friend Mark, who ran a successful small business. When Ryan showed him the letter, Mark didn't seem surprised. He just smiled and said, "Maybe it's not from someone else. Maybe it's a message from your future self trying to warn you." Ryan laughed it off, but the words struck a chord deep within him. His future self, the version of him that never gave up, was calling out for help. That night, Ryan made a solemn promise. No more waiting, no more comfort. He took a marker and wrote on his wall, "Killer number 1, comfort zone." He didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning of his battle. There were still 6 more silent killers lurking in the shadows, waiting for a chance to pull him back into his old ways. But for the first time in years, Ryan felt truly awake. The rain had stopped. The air outside smelled fresh and clean. He looked at the letter one last time, the words seeming to glow in the dim light. "You are being killed silently, one by one." Ryan whispered back to the silence, "Not anymore." If you've ever felt like Ryan, stuck and waiting for tomorrow, know that you're not alone. This is just the first step. The morning sun touched Ryan's face as he woke up with a new kind of energy. The strange letter from last night still lay on his desk. He picked it up, read it again, and said softly, "You won't scare me anymore." He had already faced the first silent killer, the comfort zone. He had promised himself that from now on he would take action, So he opened his laptop and started working on something he had dreamed about for years, his own small online business. He created a plan, searched for ideas, and even watched tutorials on how to start. For the first time in months, he felt alive. A spark ignited within him. But as he worked, something strange began to happen. A quiet voice inside him whispered, "Are you sure this will work? What if you fail again? You've tried before and failed, remember?" Ryan stopped typing. His hands froze on the keyboard. That small, soft voice felt louder than thunder. He tried to ignore it, but the whisper kept coming back, like an invisible fog filling his mind. All of a sudden, his excitement started fading. His confidence began to crumble. He thought, maybe I should wait a little longer, maybe I'm just not ready. That's when Ryan realized he had met the second silent killer, self-doubt. That evening, he went to meet Mark again, his old friend and mentor. Ryan told him, "I started working on my plan, but I don't know, I feel scared. What if I'm not good enough?" Mark smiled gently and said, "Ryan, let me tell you something. Doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will." Ryan looked confused. "What do you mean?" Mark explained, "When people fail, they at least try. They learn, they grow. But when doubt takes control, people don't even start. They stay stuck forever, not because they can't win, but because they believe they can't." Ryan sat silently, the words echoing in his mind. He realized that self-doubt had been with him for years. Every time he wanted to chase a dream, that voice always said, "You can't." That night, Ryan stood in front of his mirror. He looked into his own eyes and said out loud, "I can. I will. I must." He repeated it again and again. At first it felt silly, even a little strange, but slowly something shifted inside him. The fear started to fade, replaced by a flicker of resolve. He turned on his laptop again and continued working, this time without listening to the voice of doubt. Every time it whispered, he replied, "I am not listening to you anymore." Days turned into a week. Then, too, Ryan started seeing small results. His first product idea was ready, his first website was live, and his first few customers showed interest. It wasn't a roaring success, not yet, but it was progress. He took a marker and wrote on his wall next to the first line, "Killer 2, Self-Doubt," and under it he wrote, "If you believe you can't, you won't." Late that night, as he cleaned his desk, he noticed something strange again. Another envelope was lying near the door, just like before. He froze for a moment. His heart pounded in his chest. Slowly, he picked it up. This time, the letter had only one line. The next one hides behind excuses. Ryan stared at it, his heartbeat rising. He whispered, "Excuses? What does that mean?" He didn't know it yet, but the third silent killer was already waiting, hiding inside his habits, ready to strike. The journey was far from over. The next morning, Ryan woke up early, the strange letter still clutched in his hand. "The next one hides behind excuses," he read it again. Excuses? What does that mean? He looked around his messy room, his laptop closed, his to-do list untouched. He sighed. Maybe I'll work after breakfast. But breakfast turned into scrolling social media, and one video quickly turned into 10. Before he knew it, it was noon. "I wasted half the day," he muttered. "I'll start fresh tomorrow." The moment those words left his lips, a cold whisper echoed in his mind. "You just met the third killer." Ryan froze, his heart pounding. The truth hit him like a punch. His excuses were the reason he was failing. That evening, he went back to his mentor, Mark. Seeing the exhaustion on his face, Mark asked, "What's wrong, Ryan?" Ryan confessed, "I found the third killer. It's excuses. Every time I plan something, I find a reason not to do it. I just keep telling myself, I'll start tomorrow." Mark gave a knowing smile. "Excuses are clever, Ryan. They sound like the truth, but they are just lies comfort tells you. The more you listen, the weaker you become." He leaned in, adding, "Successful people feel lazy too. They feel tired, scared, and unsure. The difference is they don't let those feelings dictate their actions. Ryan sat in silence, letting the words sink in. That night, he decided to fight back. He gave himself a 24-hour challenge, work seriously, without a single excuse. His new rule was simple. No matter what, I will not say later. I will do it now. He dove back into his business idea. The first hour was brutal. His mind screamed, "Take a break." He pushed through. Another voice whispered, "It's too late, just do it tomorrow." He ignored it again. Hours melted away as he stayed laser-focused. For the first time, he didn't stop. By midnight, his table was a canvas of notes, plans, and brilliant ideas. He glanced at the clock. It had been 10 hours straight. A genuine smile spread across his face for the first time in a long while. When the sun rose, Ryan stared at his work in disbelief. In one day, he had accomplished more than he had in the last 3 months. He finally understood. Excuses weren't just delays, they were thieves, stealing his time and his dreams. He walked to his wall and wrote under the others, "Killer number 3, excuses." And below it, he added a powerful reminder. Excuses sound best to the person who makes them. As Ryan sipped his morning coffee, feeling a surge of pride, he heard it again. That soft thud near the door. His heart leaped into his throat. He slowly walked over and saw another envelope, same handwriting, same black ink. He picked it up, his hands trembling slightly as he opened it. The letter read, "The next one hides in the mirror." Ryan frowned. In the mirror? He turned and looked at his reflection. For a split second, he felt a chilling sensation, as if his own reflection was staring back with a warning. He whispered to himself, "The next killer is me." He didn't know it yet, but he was about to face the most dangerous enemy of all, the one that silently destroys happiness from within. The words from the letter echoed in Ryan's mind all night long. The next one hides in the mirror. He stood in front of the bathroom mirror, just staring at his own reflection. His face looked tired, but his eyes were different now. They were more alive, more determined than they had been in years. He whispered to his reflection, "What does it even mean? Is the killer me?" He leaned closer, his breath fogging the glass. "Or maybe," he said softly, "maybe it just means I'm the one stopping myself again." But deep down, he didn't really get it. Not yet. Over the next few days, Ryan's business idea started to take shape. It wasn't just a dream anymore. He built a small, simple website, started sharing his work on social media, and to his surprise, he even got his first few customers. For the first time, he felt a real sense of pride. He was actually doing it. But that feeling didn't last long. Later that night, he opened social media, and there it was. People his own age, some he even knew, doing so much better. They had luxury cars, beautiful houses, and what looked like massive success. He just kept scrolling for hours, watching one success story after another. Slowly, his smile faded. He whispered to the empty room, "They started after me, and look at them now." That quiet, nagging voice inside him, the same one that had whispered doubt before. It came back, louder this time. "You'll never catch up. You're too late to the game. You're just not good enough." The weight of it all crushed him. Ryan's heart grew heavy, and all the excitement he'd felt just hours before completely vanished. He snapped his laptop shut and leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in weeks, he seriously felt like quitting. Later that evening, Ryan met up with his mentor, Mark. As soon as Mark saw him, he knew something was wrong. "You look lost, Ryan. What's going on?" Ryan let out a heavy sigh. "I thought I was doing okay, Mark. I was making progress. But then I saw everyone else and how much better they're doing. It just makes me feel so small. I feel like I'm hopelessly behind." Mark just smiled gently. "Ah, so you've finally met the fourth killer." Ryan frowned, confused. "The fourth killer?" Mark nodded. "Yes, the killer of comparison. It's the one that hides in the mirror, because when you spend all your time looking at others, you completely lose sight of your own progress." Mark leaned in a little. Listen, Ryan. The only person you should be competing with is not some random person on a screen. It's the person you see in the mirror every morning. Your only job every single day is to be just a little bit better than you were yesterday. That's it. That's the race you need to win. Ryan sat there quietly, letting Mark's words sink in. They hit him hard. That night he went home and opened his laptop again. He went back to those same social media pages, but this time, something was different. He didn't feel that sting of jealousy. Instead, he said to himself, "They have their story, and I have mine." He opened his photo gallery and looked at pictures of himself from a year ago, the guy who was lost, lazy, and completely hopeless. Then he looked at himself now, working hard, learning new things, and slowly, but surely, growing. A real smile spread across his face. "I'm not where I want to be yet," he thought, "but I'm definitely not where I used to be either." He grabbed a marker and wrote on the wall next to the others, "Killer for comparison," and right below it he added a note to himself. "Dante, compare your chapter 1 to someone else wins chapter 20. Just as he was about to finally get some sleep, he heard it again, a soft, rustling sound near his front door. His heart started to race. He crept over to the door and found another envelope slipped underneath. His hands were shaking slightly as he picked it up. He tore it open, and the letter inside had just a few words. "The next one feeds on your fear." Ryan took a deep, steadying breath. "Fear," he whispered. "Fear of what?" He looked around the dimly lit room. The lights flickered for a split second, and the air suddenly felt colder. But this time was different. For the first time, these letters didn't feel like threats. They felt like challenges, like someone or something was pushing him, testing him to see if he could grow. He sat down, a new resolve in his eyes. "All right," he said softly to the empty room. "I'm ready for the next one." But he had no idea that the fifth killer was more powerful than all the others combined. It didn't just stop dreams, it made people run away from them entirely. The night was silent, heavy. Ryan sat on his bed, a single piece of paper trembling slightly in his hands. It held just one line. "The next one feeds on your fear." He stared at it, the words echoing in the quiet of his room. Fear? He'd fought so many battles already. He'd conquered his comfort zone, wrestled with self-doubt, silenced his excuses, and even slain the monster of comparison. But fear. Fear was different. It didn't roar. It whispered, and Ryan could already feel that cold, quiet whisper coiling in his chest. The next morning, an email shattered the silence. A local investor had seen his business idea online. They wanted to meet. This was it. The break he'd been working for, the validation he craved. A jolt of pure excitement shot through him. But just as quickly the whispers started. What if you fail? What if they hate your idea? What if you make a complete fool of yourself? The excitement curdled into a knot of pure dread. He started mentally drafting cancellation emails. He wasn't ready, he needed more time, it was too soon. His eyes fell on the letter again. The next one feeds on your fear. He froze. The killer wasn't coming. It was already here. That evening, he found himself in the calm presence of his mentor, Mark. He laid it all out. The email, the opportunity, the suffocating fear that had him in a chokehold. Mark listened, his expression unreadable. When Ryan finished, Mark spoke. "Ryan, fear isn't your enemy. It's just a signal. It's your brain's way of telling you that something important, something big is on the line." Ryan's brow furrowed. "But it feels so overwhelming. I feel like I can't breathe." Mark nodded. "That's because fear feeds on attention. The more you focus on it, the bigger and stronger it gets. But the moment you take action, it starts to starve." Ryan took a shaky breath. "So, I should go to the meeting?" Mark smiled warmly. "Absolutely. Go, even if your voice shakes. Go, even if your hands tremble. Courage isn't about not feeling fear. It's about looking fear right in the eye and doing the thing anyway. The next day, Ryan stood in front of the mirror, dressed in his best suit. His hands were shaking, but his resolve was firm. "I'm not running anymore," he whispered to his reflection. He walked into that investor's office, his heart hammering against his ribs. He introduced himself. He presented his idea. He spoke not with slick confidence, but with raw, honest courage. For 30 minutes, he poured everything he had into that presentation. When he finished, the room was silent. Then, the investor smiled. "You've got passion, Ryan, that's rare. Let's work together." Ryan's world stopped. He couldn't believe it. The meeting he'd almost sabotaged, the moment he'd almost run from, had just become the turning point of his life. He realized then that fear had stolen so many opportunities from him in the past. But not this one. Not today. That night, Ryan stood before his wall. He picked up a marker and wrote, "Killer number 5, fear." Beneath it, he added a quote, "Fear doesn't stop death, it stops life." He looked at the list of fallen giants: comfort zone, doubt, excuses, comparison, and now fear. A smile touched his lips. 5 down, 2 more to go. Just then, a familiar soft thud came from the hallway. His heart skipped a beat. Another letter. He picked it up, his fingers steady this time, and tore open the envelope. The message was short, cryptic. "The next one lives around you." Around me. He looked around his small apartment. His phone buzzed. Messages from old acquaintances, some mocking his dreams, others telling him he was wasting his time. A chill ran down his spine. "So," he whispered to the empty room, "the next killer isn't inside me this time. It's out there." He was about to face a new kind of battle, not against his inner demons, but against the voices of the world trying to pull him back down. A new letter lay open on Ryan's desk. "The next one lives around you." He read those words again and again. "Around me," he whispered. "Who lives around me?" At first, he thought it meant his neighbors or maybe strangers on the street. But soon, he realized, the killer wasn't a person. It was a voice, a collection of whispers from the people around him. That morning, Ryan got a message from an old school friend. "Hey man, what's this business thing you're doing? You really think it'll work?" Ryan replied with a smile. "Yeah, I'm trying my best." The friend laughed. "You should get a real job, bro. Don't waste your time." Ryan stared at the screen, his smile completely gone. Later that day, another friend called. "You're lucky if even 10 people notice your idea. This online thing never works." Each word felt like a small cut, a tiny puncture in his confidence. By evening, Ryan's mind was flooded with voices of doubt. Not his own this time, but the ones people had planted in him. When Ryan met his mentor Mark later that week, he looked exhausted. Mark noticed it immediately. "Ryan, something's bothering you." Ryan nodded. "Yes, it's people. Everyone keeps saying I won't make it. Their words are stuck in my head. I'm trying to ignore them, but I just can't." Mark smiled gently. You've met the 6th killer. Negativity. It hides in the words of those around you. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It tells you to give up, to stop trying before you've even started." Ryan sighed. "But it's hard, Mark. Some of them are my friends." Mark nodded. "Yes, and that's why it's so dangerous. Negativity feels normal when it comes from people you care about. But you must choose carefully who you allow near your dreams." He continued, "Ryan, remember this. Success needs silence. Negativity needs an audience. Stop giving it one." That night, Ryan thought deeply about Mark's words. He looked at his phone and scrolled through his chats, so many messages filled with doubt, sarcasm, and thinly veiled condescension. He finally decided to do something he had never done before. He pressed delete. One by one, he removed the contacts who always pulled him down. He unfollowed the pages that made him feel small. He consciously chose to keep only the people who lifted him up, the ones who believed in his dream. The silence that followed felt strange at first, but then peaceful. Days turned into weeks. Ryan worked harder and his business started to grow faster than ever before. He wasn't hearing those negative voices anymore. Whenever he felt a flicker of weakness, he reminded himself, noise can't touch you if you stay focused on your path. He took a marker and wrote on his wall, Killer number 6, negativity, and underneath he added a new rule for his life. Protect your peace. Not everyone deserves your energy. Just when Ryan felt everything was finally coming together, he heard that familiar, dreaded sound again, a thud near the door. His heart raced. He walked slowly, half nervous, half curious. He picked up the envelope, tore it open, and read the final message. The last one waits when you are tired. Ryan stared at it confused. When I'm tired, he whispered. He looked around his small apartment, now cleaner, brighter, more organized. His wall was filled with the names of the 6 killers he had conquered. Comfort zone, self-doubt, excuses, comparison, fear, and negativity. He touched the last line on the letter again. The last one waits when you are tired. A chill ran down his spine as the meaning crashed over him. The final killer was the one that attacks when you are at your weakest. The one that comes when you've fought every other battle and feel like you have nothing left to give. He took a deep breath and said quietly, So, the last one is quitting. He didn't know it yet, but his hardest test was still waiting for him, the ultimate battle between his dreams and his exhaustion. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, let us know in the comments. Have you ever felt like you're on the very edge of burnout? You've worked so hard, pushed through so many obstacles, but now, you're just tired. That's exactly where we find our friend Ryan. A letter lay open on his desk, its words echoing in his mind. The last one waits when you are tired. And tired was an understatement. After months of relentless work, long nights, and pouring every ounce of his energy into his growing business, his body and spirit were starting to give up. Some days were filled with promise, others with crushing disappointment. He had learned to fight his fear, to ignore the negativity, and to believe in himself, but deep down, a profound exhaustion was setting in. Leaning back in his chair, he whispered to the empty room, I've done everything I can, maybe this is it. That night, sleep wouldn't come. He just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, as old, familiar whispers started to creep back in. Soft, slow, and dangerous. You've done enough. Just stop now. Maybe success isn't for you. He tried to turn away, to shut them out, but they only grew louder. He sat up abruptly, a cold sweat on his brow. No, he said out loud. I can't go back. Not now. But the honest truth? He wanted to quit. He desperately wanted the struggle to be over. The next morning, he met his friend Mark, perhaps for the last time. Mark took one look at the exhaustion etched on Ryan's face and asked, What's wrong, my friend? Ryan sighed, the weight of his fatigue in his voice. I feel empty. I've faced all the killers, but I'm still so tired. I'm thinking of taking a break, maybe even stopping for good. Mark looked at him, a knowing calm in his eyes. Ryan, he said gently, do you know when most people fail? Ryan just shook his head. Mark leaned in. They fail right before they win. The moment you feel your absolute weakest is often the moment you are closest to your breakthrough. That's when the last killer arrives, the voice that says, give up. Ryan was silent, the words sinking in. Mark continued, remember the letter? The last one waits when you are tired. That killer, my friend, is quitting too soon. Don't let it win. That night, Ryan returned to his desk. He looked at the wall where he had listed the 6 killers he had already defeated, but there was one empty space left. He picked up a marker, and with a steady hand, he wrote, Killer number 7, giving up too soon. And beneath it, he added, the last key to success is to keep going. He stared at those words and his eyes filled with tears. He realized that every failure, every long night, every fear, they were all threads in the same tapestry. It was all part of the journey. The next morning, something shifted. Ryan woke up early and got back to work. He worked quietly, without desperate expectation, without crippling fear, just with a quiet, renewed faith. Days turned into weeks, And then, one morning, his phone rang. It was the investor. "Ryan," the voice on the other end said, "your idea is getting major attention. People love your product. We think it's time to expand." Ryan froze. He couldn't speak. A single tear rolled down his cheek. All the nights of pain, all the moments he almost threw in the towel, they had led him to this. He whispered, barely audible, "I made it. I didn't quit." That evening, when he walked into his apartment, another envelope was on his table. His heart hammered against his ribs as he opened it. This time there were no ominous words, just a short, simple message. "You survived them all." A deep, peaceful smile spread across his face. He placed the letter on his desk and turned to his wall, looking at the 7 killers he had conquered: comfort zone, self-doubt, excuses, comparison, fear, negativity, and giving up. He whispered to himself, "These were never enemies outside of me. They were all inside." He sat there for a long time, the city lights twinkling outside his window like a sea of stars. He now understood. Success doesn't come from luck. It comes from refusing to stop. It's not about being the fastest or the smartest. It's about having the courage to stay in the game when everyone else has walked away. Remember this: the world doesn't destroy dreamers. Their own habits do. Defeat these silent killers inside you and your success will no longer stay silent. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content to help you on your own journey. We'll see you in the next one.